first time I ever saw Kiss musically, I believe, was the commercial for the Kiss radio on TV. If you remember that commercial, the radio exploded on television. And I believe it was the song Detroit Rock City.
Wow.
That you heard playing that came off of my television anyway. So I was just, what was that? You know, I had never seen anything like that before. And not soon after that, a family moved onto my street, and they had a young boy around my age whose name was Chris. And Chris and I became friends. I had gone over to his house one day, and we went up to his bedroom, and on his closet door was the US Tour 76 poster. Peter with the, you know, the bloody bandana on his head and the flag. So I had just seen this commercial for the radio, and then a few days later I see this poster, and it was, from then on, it was just, everything was Kiss. I just needed to know everything I could about them. But to be honest with you, the first time I heard the music was for the Kiss radio commercial on television. You know, I have to think that it was Destroyer. I think, because that's my favorite all-time Kiss album.
Me too. That's my favorite.
Well, I have to believe that if I was smart enough, I probably went and bought that one right away.
Great. On July 1979, you saw Kiss live at Civic Arena for the first time. How was your experience at that particular show?
It was ridiculous. I was 15 years old. I'm now 57, so it was a long time ago. And I went with this same friend, Chris, and we had fifth row from the stage. And this was my third concert ever in my life seeing. So it was a pretty amazing experience. I can remember when the fire went up on stage, I felt the heat in the fifth row. I mean, it was that intense. You know, when the confetti fell during Rock and Roll All Night, I held my tour book open, and the confetti rained down, and then I closed it and carried it home that way.
Wow.
You know, it was the year that, being from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, we had won the NFL championship and the Major League Baseball championship that year. So I can remember Paul Stanley calling us the City of Champions during the concert. Even at one point, Ace wore a Pittsburgh Pirate batting helmet. So there were a lot of little things that I remember about the show. I also remember seeing the largest joint I've ever seen in my life too, get past along by the people in front of me. That thing was like a Cuban cigar. It was giant. And I didn't do that sort of thing when I was that age. I was very sheltered, so I didn't know what that was. It just smelled really peculiar.
Great. Did your brother was responsible for getting you into the electric guitar?
Yeah, my brother Jerry is 7 years older than me, and he lived on the third floor of our house. We had a 3-story house, and I would always hear music coming out of his room. And this was right around 75, 76. And the first album that I remember he played that really caught my ear was Frampton Comes Alive. That was one of the first albums that I remember hearing, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. And to this day, I'm still a Peter Frampton fan. I've been fortunate enough to meet him a number of times and see him a few times in concert. And so that, my brother Jerry was actually very responsible for initiating me to a lot of rock and roll music. And he plays guitar as well, still to this day, very accomplished player. And so I credit my brother Jerry for getting me involved with playing guitar. I was at a record show where I happened to just see another guy looking at a Kiss book, and I walked up to him and I made a comment, and he and I struck up a conversation. We started talking. Before we left that record show, we had exchanged phone numbers, and we then started getting together and playing guitar. He says, I play guitar, and I said, oh, so do I. So our friendship really kind of blossomed from that, and we started playing guitar, and 6 months into it, it started sounding pretty good. He was much better of a player than me, and so he was able to teach me a lot of things that still to this day I use in Mr. Speed when we learn songs. So it started sounding really good with he and I, and we thought, well, maybe we should think about forming a band, because I got to be honest with you, Pablo, Mr. Speed was never meant to be a band. It was only meant to be myself and this friend playing songs onto a cassette tape. That was it.
Okay.
And here we are 27 years later, and you know, we're pretty much known around the world as being one of the better Kiss tribute bands.
Can you tell us the story when you and Mike put the Kiss makeup for the first time?
Oh, yeah, we looked ridiculous, and you know, we just looked really funny. Mike had used one of the original Kiss makeup kits from the 70s. So he actually took the lid off of his and used what was inside of it. We did that in 1993. So
he opened that painting thing from back in the day? Like,
yes, from back in 77, 78. It was already open. It was part of his collection, so he just used that. Because you have to understand something. We started Mr. Speed. We didn't know how to make costumes. We didn't know where to get all the materials. We really didn't know where to get makeup or what kind of makeup to use. So he used what he had laying around, thinking it was going to be really a smart thing to do. It turned out to be really a dumb idea. Because the silver that actually Ace uses and the guys who portray Ace use, it's a very, it's almost like mercury. You know, it's very slippery, and you use a very small amount of it, and it covers a big area. You just need a little drop, and it'll do the whole design. But we didn't know that. So Mike's using this, whatever they had in the kit, and it really looked, it was gray. For lack of a better term, it was gray. It was not silver. So he looked almost like a ghost. It was really kind of funny. Well, the very first show was on June 24th, 1994. It was at a club called The Decade in Pittsburgh. And The Decade was a very famous, very small. Not a lot of height between the stage and the ceiling. There were 250 people at this show, and that was sold out. People were standing on the stage. There was no room for anybody. I believe it was $5 to get in. So if you do the math, we really got screwed because we made $150 American.
Wow.
Having 250 people in there. So I'm really not sure where all the rest of that money went, but it didn't go to us.
Yeah.
But everybody was so happy, and we were blown away. We couldn't believe it when we came through the door from the dressing room and how hot it was in there, and all these people were cheering and excited. And I have that first show on cassette tape. We recorded the entire show. We actually have it on video as well too. And the one thing I can say about it is we didn't stink. You know, we could play. And you know, it was. I look at some of the Kiss tribute bands that are out now, and man, we were really good compared to the way some of these bands are today.
Yes.
So it was sold out. It was really hot, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. But then asked me about my second show, and there was maybe 20 people. Oh, it went real high first, and then it went real fast. Oh boy. Well, I'm trying to think. I've met him a lot of times. I've met Paul probably 20 times in
Wow.
my at various things. You know, the first time I ever met him was on the Crazy Nights tour in 1987. I used to have a record job, and I got tickets and backstage passes to see them in Pittsburgh. And so I was taken back with a bunch of record people, and he signed my tour book, and that was it. I didn't get a photo. I didn't really talk to him. There were so many people there, it was really crazy. But over the years, I've had a lot of other meetings with him, and they've been a lot more social. But I've never really had the chance to sit and talk to him like I would like to. Um, I believe he might know who we are, but I really don't think that he's all that concerned about Mr. Speed. But part of what I do for myself is to make sure that he at least knows that the guy in Mr. Speed is trying a little bit more than most to pay the best respect to him that I possibly can.
You know, in 2012 in Las Vegas, Mr. Speed was named the best tribute band in the world. Can you tell us how you guys won that contest?
Sure. Right here.
From the heart.
We played from our heart. Yeah. We got involved with that. I think in January of that year, 2012, they announced the contest. We all agreed that we wanted to be a part of it, and so we submitted our video. Over 200 bands from around the world had submitted videos. They narrowed it down to the top 20, and then fans from around the world could vote for 3 days on their favorite video. And at the end of those 3 days, we were one of the top 4 bands that were, going to Las Vegas to compete. So when we got to Las Vegas, we were on a stage that was about as big as your bathroom. I mean, it was small, really small. And the only instruments that we had of our own were our guitars. Like our amps, we borrowed. The drum set was borrowed. There was no stage props or anything like that. So we had rehearsed twice a week for about 2.5 months leading up to that performance. And the night before the contest, they put the 4 names into a hat, and they asked me to draw the first name. So I reached my hand in there and I pulled out the piece of paper, and it said Mr. Speed. So I had the choice to go first, second, third, or fourth. And I'm pretty sure I can say balls on your on your video here. So I had the balls enough to believe in our band that we were going to go first, and I wanted to set the bar and make everybody beat us, and that's what happened. And we played great. We played like a band. We were tight, and in the end, when I asked Tommy Thayer why he chose us, he said just that reason alone. He said, "You guys played like a band today," and so I was very proud of that. Well, as you know, Bob was the lead guitarist on Paul's solo album in 1978.
Yeah.
So that's my all-time favorite album. And I loved Bob's playing. So being here in the United States, Bob was doing a lot of KISS expos, where fans come together and you can buy memorabilia, and they'll bring an ex-member of the band to the event. You can get autographs and photos. Well, Bob became a pretty constant special guest at a lot of these events. So a lot of them I would go to, and I'd get to meet him. And I can remember the first night I think I met him, I had to pick him up at the airport here in Cleveland. And then we took him to the hotel where the event was going to be played. And I said to him, "Bob, is there any chance that you could play with us tomorrow?" And he said to me, well, why don't you come up here to the room in about an hour, bring your guitar, and we'll see how it goes. So I brought my guitar up, and Bob and I sat there in a room and we played bubblegum together. And after it was over, he goes, okay. And it was just that simple. But I think what you're talking about is when we played with him in Miami in 2013. I think Bob agreed to play with us because he knew of us, he knew of our band, and I think he knew that it was going to be worth his time to come up and be a part of it. So to be able to play All American Man and I think Wouldn't You Like to Know Me off of Paul's solo album with him, huge thrill for me. I was very saddened to learn when Bob passed away because I'll never get the chance to hear him tell stories and see him play live again. But at least in my heart, in my head, I have the memory of meeting him a couple of times, getting his autograph, and having him be very kind to me over the years when I did meet him.
Wow, what an amazing experience. You know?
Very much, yeah.
Tell us about this year, 2021, touring with Mr. Speed. How is playing again with the band going on?
We played our second show last weekend. It was outside of Chicago. And it was a good show. It wasn't very heavily attended. There wasn't a really big crowd, but the people that were there were very passionate, and they were glad to be seeing live music again. It was a day-long event. There were 4 bands, 3 of them in front of us, and then we were the headlining band. So it was very, very gratifying for us to be able to get back on stage. We could, put more of our stage show up, even though what we put up was very, as we say, diluted. It was very compromised. We haven't been able to put up our whole Dynasty stage set yet, but we're getting close. In a couple of weeks, we'll be able to put the whole thing up. But we were able to play for people who had never seen us before, and we touched them. We actually had a man who saw Kiss in '79. He came up to us afterwards, and he was in tears. Not because we played so badly, but because we touched him inside so deeply with what we did, yeah. And he wanted to tell us how it made him feel. And you're a musician, so you know what it's like when you touch somebody with what you're doing. Yeah. So it's very humbling to be able to play live music again, to reach people like we have, and for people to make that connection with us, because we're not Kiss. Yeah. We're just trying to make you believe that you're seeing Kiss to the best of our ability.
Yeah. Awesome. And how does it feel to go back to the stage after the 2020, the pandemic?
Oh,
it's amazing.
That pandemic can kiss my ass. I just hope that we continue to move forward as a human race and get better, and that we don't go back to what we have now come through, and we can continue to have live shows and bands can tour and we can have fun again as a human race. That's what I am hoping for. It feels amazing to be back on stage, Pablo. It really does. It feels great to put all that get up on, transform ourselves into our heroes, and then go out and play their music for people and make people feel good. It feels amazing.
Thanks. So it has been a great experience for me and a true honor talking to you, Rich, and meeting you, obviously. And thank you for everything, Rich, and we keep in touch.
You and I, we're connected, Pablo.
Yeah.
We're friends now.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. You reach out to me anytime you need, my friend. I'm always here for you.
Of course. All right. Okay, take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.